Okay, so the best part about March, in my opinion, and I don't think this is dissimilar to a lot of other people out there, Girl Scout cookies. And some dude for the LA Times made
Ranked
a definitive
I
ranking.
was just reading that, and I couldn't wait to shove it in your face.
Well, hold on.
I know.
So some of these are cookies I've never heard of. Like, I didn't know they sold caramel chocolate chip.
It's a gluten-free one, I think.
Okay, I also didn't know that they sold Toastiers.
I've
like
never heard of that
toast?
one either.
Or Toffee-tastic. These are all new. I just like the...
Are they current, or are they ones that, like, have they been around in the past and maybe aren't
I don't know.
sold
They're
every
on
year?
the rankings list.
Yeah, I think there are some that are just for that year and then don't come back or whatever.
Like tagalongs. S'mores are relatively new, I think.
Yeah.
It says s'mores version 2.
Oh.
So that
Okay.
implies there was a first one. Oh, there is. Girl Scout s'mores version 1. Lemon ups, shortbread, all the tagalongs, these are all familiar to me. Lemonades, all familiar. But the number one cookie, period, in terms of taste, are the caramel delights.
Or Samoas. Yeah.
Samoas, yeah.
Those have always been my favorite.
Mine are Thin Mints. They rank 4 in taste, 1 in frozen.
Yes, I agree with that.
They are the best frozen
The
cookie.
caramel delights are not good frozen because the caramel's too hard.
Yeah. Okay, so here's my point. We have Thin Mints from 4 years ago in the freezer, and they're still number one because they don't go bad.
I know. You're such a sucker for Girl Scout cookies that you buy them but you don't want to eat too many. It's like a special treat.
You're
right?
making
So
me
you
sound
throw
like
'em-
a pedo.
No, stop. You like you like to support our local. You always give money to.
Well, we have a child, and
Right.
I see my child in the Girl Scout.
I know,
and
you're
if that
doing
was
it
my kid.
to support them,
Yeah.
and you do the same thing anytime there's a group who's out canning for
Softball or
or
baseball,
cheerleading or whatever, any sports, fundraisers. You love doing that and supporting them. So yes, you will never turn down an opportunity to buy Girl Scout cookies, no matter how many are in our freezer from God knows how many years ago.
We did this year. We didn't buy Thin Mints this year.
I know, because I reminded you still had like 3 or 4 boxes in the freezer from
I'm down
2016.
to 3.
Yeah. You've been trying to make a dent in them now.
Yeah. Welcome to While She's Napping. I am Adam.
And I'm Cindy.
Yeah, I think Thin Mints are the best. I think they're good with everything. The problem is if you're having milk or like an orange soda or something. Yeah, it's terrible.
That's like orange juice and toothpaste.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So they don't go with everything. But
Who drinks orange juice with cookies?
I didn't say orange juice. I said orange soda.
Oh, sorry, orange soda. Who drinks orange soda with cookies?
Kids.
Well,
Maybe not now, but
that's
when
not a
I
good
was a kid,
combo
I was chugging sodas.
Yeah, I guess. A Fanta.
No, we just get well, first of all, the best orange soda is Crush.
Yeah.
By far. But we used to get the generic store brands.
Okay.
Shout out to Stop and Shop.
Yeah.
Throw those in the carriage. Or the shopping cart. Hey, so last week, our episode on OnlyFans, we had a lot of listeners.
Hold on. Our episode about OnlyFans.
Oh, yeah. It wasn't
Not that we
on.
had content on OnlyFans.
Well, we might.
Didn't got to
You just
distinguish.
gotta dig for it.
Be clear.
I forget who I said. I said this to someone that we should have made it an OnlyFans exclusive episode. Put the episode on OnlyFans.
Yeah, that'd be
and have
funny.
an exclusive with still images of me
And the beard.
in the background, exclusively the beard. Hey, hopefully we made Alan the bearded king get
Got
a
him
little
some
more
followers.
clicks. Wakes up. Why the fuck are people requesting?
Yeah.
Anyways, kicking March off with a bang. OnlyFans episode was well received and a lot of engagement. So we appreciate that. We appreciate people listening to the episode. If you didn't know what OnlyFans was and now you do, maybe you're interested.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Maybe you've already made 150K in the first week. But anyways, if you don't know what we're talking about and you're interested in hearing the OnlyFans episode, we encourage you to subscribe to our show and to download the content. Look, we are approaching 1 year of the show. I'm very excited about it. It seems like it sort of flew by. I actually took a deep dive into the archives this past week to listen to some older episodes. Still good stuff. Specifically the Rhode Island and the 90s episode. Yeah.
I want to go back and listen to those too. I'm going to listen to the 90s one before we get our 90s donuts in a few weeks from...
we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll post pictures too.
They're great.
And we also covered the donut shop on the Rhode Island
That's
episode,
right.
so.
That's right.
Anyways, if you have no idea what we're referring to and you want to partake in these conversations, please subscribe to the show, dig through the archives, and listen to the content. It's there for your listening pleasures, and it's all timeless. It is most of it. I'd say a good 95% of the stuff on there isn't necessarily dedicated to the time that it was released. It's good anytime you want to consume it, you can. So we encourage you to do so. We're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast fix from, we are there. And if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, please take the time to give us 5 stars and a quick review. At the very least, just click the 5th star all the way to the right and call it a day. We appreciate it. And if you want to get involved with the conversations, you can by visiting our social media.
We're on Facebook at facebook.com/whileshe'snapping, on Instagram at whileshe'snapping, on Twitter at she'snappingpod, or you can email us at whileshe'snapping@gmail.com.
I wonder what the worst Girl Scout cookie is. What is ranked 12th? What do you think is the worst? Do you already know?
I don't know. I'm trying to think. I can't even remember, the ones that I don't like because I never got them.
Apparently it's ranked 12th. Caramel chocolate chip is the worst.
That's the gluten-free one.
Is it gluten-free? It is. Yes.
I heard it has the texture of a dog biscuit.
Yeah, they added sea salt to it.
Interesting.
And the second worst is Toastiers. I've never heard of these. What? Oh, it's sort of like Cinnamon Toast Crunch. So it looks like a piece of toast.
Mm-hmm. Like a maple flavor
it's
cookie.
Cinnamon. It's got a coating.
I've never had that one.
Interesting. Just give me the Thin Mints. Just Thin Mints all day.
I've always liked Samoas and Tagalongs.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, classics.
All right. So today we're gonna focus on whether or not we're in the Matrix. Now, I'm going to try to make this as entertaining as possible and
it will be.
like rudimentary philosophy, because as many of you already know, I have a degree in philosophy. So talking about whether or not we're in a simulation, or talking about whether or not the reality that we perceive is base level reality, is a really cool topic to talk about in Intro to Philosophy. If you try bringing that shit up in any of the, unless it has to do with epistemology or existentialism, if we're just talking about Descartes or Plato's Cave, which is what I'll get into to sort of explain this, you're in the wrong course. The upper level philosophy does not really care about those things.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Because I'm at a very basic level with philosophy.
But I just think it's fun to talk about. And given that there has been, as I've made reference to in the preview to the show on the Instagram page or the Facebook page, there has been a physicist that has done some testing, and it sort of lends support to the notion that we could be living in a simulation. I've never said this to you before, but there are conspiracy theories out there, the Mandela effect, the anti-vax stuff, and QAnon, all that stuff that we've covered on here, I dismiss as nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
This is the only thing that I even remotely say, well, maybe.
It's the philosopher in you.
It's the only thing. I believe this more than God.
There's no scientific evidence or data to support the concept of God. God is just something that you believe in.
That's not true.
Okay. Go tell me.
The God particle. Like there's no scientific data to support that God exists, but there are unknowns that science can't
explain. Sure.
And that is the first particle, the God particle.
Okay, but just because we can't explain it doesn't mean it's
I'm
God.
not, but it's you can sort of get there. Not with science, but with saying,
by
what are
default.
the first two things of the Big Bang? So it had to come from something.
Right. Right. So, but that's just stuff that we can't understand, and you can choose to default to that as your belief. But what I'm saying is, this is a scientist who's conducting actual experiments with like tangible evidence that could lend to this theory being true.
Sure.
So I'm just distinguishing between those two things.
Yeah, it offers support. The physicist, findings that I'll reference in a bit. It offers support to it. Doesn't prove anything.
Not at all. Yeah.
But anyways, all right. So base level, at the most rudimentary and quickest way I can explain it to you, if you are unfamiliar with the aspect of Plato's cave or the Descartes dream argument, I think therefore I am. If you're unfamiliar with that, but you've seen The Matrix, it's pretty much the same thing, right? So the Matrix, in the movie, there's this reality that we're perceiving, the real world, quote unquote, our everyday lives, streets, cities, countries, blah, blah, blah. Neo takes, I think it's the red pill or whatever, and he experiences reality for what it is. There are a bunch of pods with humans in them, and the real world is gross. It's post-apocalyptic. It's just terrible. It's nowhere that you want to live. But the realization is anything that you want in the Matrix, you can have. You just have to download it into you. So reality is one thing, our perception is another. That's basically what you need to know. Same thing with Plato's cave. The allegory of the cave is we are born chained up into these caves, and there's fire around us, and the shadows illuminating off the fire is what we perceive as reality. Someone breaks free of the chains, goes out of the cave, and experiences what's outside of the cave, aka reality. So the fire and the shadows is supposed to illustrate that that's what we perceive as reality. It's not really what's there. Once you become enlightened, you experience outside of the cave and understand that there's a plethora of things and, opportunities available for knowledge and what have you at your disposal. And once you discover those things, people call you crazy.
Okay, so that was going to be my question is, in that scenario, once you break out of your cave and become enlightened and see reality for what it is, can you communicate back to the people who are in their cave?
It's very hard.
Okay.
And in the allegory of the cave, those that are still chained, you have this figure that's saying, hey, there's a whole world out here. You got to check it out. And the people are saying, no, it's right in front of us. What are you talking about? There's nothing more. This is it.
Okay.
And so in both of these theories, there's a way out. Breaking free of your chains, breaking the shackles loose. You go and you experience reality for what it is. In The Matrix, you take the pill, you experience reality for what it really is. In terms of the simulation, which is what I want to focus on now, there's really no way out. And so it's really easy to say, okay, then what the fuck's the point if we can't break out? To me, yeah, if you can't break out, why are we even having these conversations? To me, if we can prove, and again, if this physicist, if his findings are lending support to this, that we are in a simulation, there are existential and ethical ramifications that I think are quite severe. Put it this way. All right. So I know it's really cliche to reference Elon Musk. Oh, he's so smart. But he's the only one that I feel has done this in a very clear-cut way of explaining it. And to me, it's like, how do you argue against that? Right? So here's his position on it.
And remember, like the strongest argument for us being in a simulation, probably being in a simulation, I think is the following. That 40 years ago, we had Pong, like two rectangles and a dot. That
Right.
was what games were. Now, 40 years later, we have photorealistic 3D simulations with millions of people playing simultaneously, and it's getting better every year. And soon we'll have virtual reality, we'll have augmented reality. If you assume any rate of improvement at all, then the games will become indistinguishable from reality. They'll be indistinguishable. Even if that rate of advancement drops by 1,000 from what it is right now, then you just say, okay, well, let's imagine it's at 10,000 years in the future, which is nothing in the evolutionary scale. So given that we're clearly on a trajectory to have games that are indistinguishable from reality, and those games could be played on any set-top box or on a PC or whatever, and there would probably be, billions of such, computers or set-top boxes, it would seem to follow that the odds that we're in base reality is 1 in billions.
I really don't see an issue with that. The only thing that I can see an issue with that is, if we're going to assume that we might not, if we are in base reality, we're the first to access these indistinguishable virtual realities.
Right. But my question is, if we create video games that are indistinguishable from reality, we know that that's the video game and this is reality. That doesn't mean that the people, the characters, the beings in the video game that's so much like our reality have some sort of consciousness or
Why?
How could because they're not real.
Okay, but again,
even though they look realistic to us and we know that they are mimicking our reality so closely, why does that translate into them being conscious beings?
Well, again, if you're assuming any rate of progress, which we are progressing quite rapidly. His idea of 40 years ago, we had Pong, which is so basic,
right,
and at the time was so, life-changing in terms of virtual reality or video game playing and whatnot. That was amazing. And now it's almost indistinguishable to the point where I remember I was playing PlayStation 1. I was playing WWF Raw, and my grandma walked in the room, and I paused the game like 10 minutes later, and she said, "I thought you were watching wrestling."
I know. I understand that.
So my point is that if we're talking about rate of improvement, that also entails AI, right? That also entails, because we're moving closer to artificial intelligence, we're moving closer towards artificial intelligence being sentient. We're closer to that.
Yeah.
Right? He's saying if you assume any rate of if you assume any rate of progress when it comes to video games, we could be in a video game progressing, right?
I just don't think it loses me at the scale and the detail in our world. Like the level of detail of all the things that we know in the world, in the universe, and the number of people, and like down to microscopic like biology, all the way up to everything that exists in our solar system and universe. Like
that could be part of the game.
That, yes, but to me, that level of detail to be part of some sort of a virtual or game alternate reality or non-reality, I can't wrap my head around how that could be possible.
Right. And 20 years ago, 40 years ago, no one could wrap their head around how it's possible that we can make virtual reality, and we're doing it.
I understand with the technological advancements. I get that. I don't even think that's enough to get us to this level of detail in our world.
Not us. But
okay, so aliens?
Post-human, we could be not even aliens. So you need to get out of the, I'm not insulting you. You need to get out of the realm of just like what we're experiencing, right? And just our platform, right? Just our universe. This could be external from that.
I know. Our
right?
entire
So
universe is a video game.
It's
I know.
not alien. It could be.
I was joking.
Right. So we could be, so there, how do I put this? There are the chances of us being within that now is it's almost likely. It's definitely more than zero. There's a non-zero chance that we are in a simulation right now.
Of course, there's a non-zero chance, but I don't think it's anywhere close to being more likely than not.
I don't know. I don't know that we can confirm that because look, we're talking about something from Pong to what we have right now, PlayStation 5.
Yeah.
Right. And the level of detail within those video games right now and those things that we experience right now is night and day compared to Pong. We can still distinguish it from our base level reality. We can still distinguish it from, actual human to human contact. But eventually you won't. You just won't. Eventually, there will be developments in virtual reality that makes it look like you are in here now. It will happen because that's the goal of every single console. That's the goal of every single virtual reality experience is to get more and more closer to indistinguishable from the reality that you live in. That's the goal. And if you say in 10,000 years, as he's saying, that it's likely.
I know, I understand all that from our perspective of being the thing in the equation who knows that's a virtual reality game because we're stepping into the game or whatever. And we know that even though this looks like reality, it's not because we're the one playing the game. I'm talking about the game, making that leap to the game itself, not realizing it's a game.
Don't think it's a game. Don't think about it as a game.
I know. We're using the example of a
like
virtual reality game.
Right.
Or whatever. You go, I put on the goggles, I go into a virtual reality experience.
Right.
Everything around me looks real, but I know that I'm in a VR game or experience because I put the goggles on and I came in. Everything, if I meet a person or a quote unquote person, while I'm in the VR experience, I'm having trouble making the leap of how do we know or why do we think that we're going to get to a point where that quote unquote person has the conscious to think that I'm real?
How do you know you're not interacting with the person that's in that sort of avatar? Because that's what we're doing right now, right? Right now we're logging online and we're playing, say, Call of Duty, and your character is controlled by you, and that character is meeting another character controlled by someone else. So if you're both logged into, the VR machine, and you're in this reality that's indistinguishable.
Okay, so you never come into contact with a quote-unquote person who's not an avatar of someone else.
You may.
Okay, so if those things, or if there's other beings, if there's animals or anything else in that virtual reality that has a conscience.
Sure. Or they
or
don't.
is conscious or
Or
whatever.
they don't. Why do they have to?
Because in this analogy, that being in the virtual reality who is not real, who is part of a simulation, if it's equivalent to our world and what we think of as reality, we are questioning, could we be in a simulation? I'm saying, do you think that we could get to a point where we create a virtual reality game where the things in the game are questioning if they're in a game?
Why does it matter?
Because that's the analogy, because that's what we would be now.
No, you're missing the point. Think about how many people you pass that are just passive. Think about the amount of people that you pass on the highway in their cars. They're faceless, they're nameless. Why can't they be the artificial intelligence that you never interact with? They're just part of the game. They're part of the scenery. You know what I'm saying?
Because that's not how
they're built into the game to be part of the series, the experience.
Because
to make
everybody
it
because that's not true. Because
you don't know that.
Because there's only so many degrees of separation between any person I'm talking about in our world, in reality.
And that's part of the game.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
This is where you lose me.
I don't necessarily believe this. I'm saying if you set up the rules as such, it's part of the game. Look, in reality right now, and I use that term loosely, in our world right now, we are in development of two things, or we're striving towards the development of two things. Right now, there's something called Earth 2, right? And Earth 2's goal is you literally buy real estate in a virtual reality world that is mirrored to ours right now. In infrastructure, everything to the finest detail is exactly the same, except it's online. People are buying real estate on it right now.
And you access it just through the internet?
The goal was to have X amount of progress within 6 months. Because of the way this is structured, the game itself did it in 2 weeks. It's rapidly growing. It's becoming conscious. It's becoming aware, and it's doing things exactly what we're seeing right now. Exactly to the T.
So you buy real estate on Earth 2, and then what? You access it through...
The goal is to upload and this is the second half of the goal. Right now, scientists are working and trying to find a way to upload consciousness, to find a way to gravitate or grab your consciousness and pull it away from you and put it in a computer so you can then experience that reality so you won't die.
So if Earth 2 wasn't a thing, they could still use that technology to transfer your consciousness into someone else's body when you die?
No. To have an experience, you are in a computer. If they pull your consciousness away and put it in a computer, you don't know that you aren't experiencing this right now. This is the experience machine.
I guess I'm wondering if this could turn, because I can't remember the name of it, but I saw a movie about this, or that had this idea of this technology, that this scientist was able to preserve her son's consciousness and put it in a robot or in a computer. And then eventually she was able to transfer it into someone else's body.
It's not like that. Okay. It's just you're being uploaded to a server, and that on that server has all the things that you want to experience, and you perceive it as reality. Feels real. You feel pain. You feel emotion. You interact with people that feel real. That's one half of the equation. The other half, so that is more individualistic. That's like you are being uploaded, and everything around you is artificial,
and you know it.
The people, you don't know it. You don't know it.
But you bought property on Earth 2.
So the idea is no. This is two separate things. There's Earth 2, and which I'm saying.
So what I'm saying, what is the point of the people who are buying real estate on Earth 2 if they don't eventually want to be uploaded there?
Oh, that's the goal.
Right. So when they do get uploaded, they'll know that they were uploaded.
Sure. But scientists are aside from that, are outside and not relying on Earth 2.
Okay.
They're trying to find a way to upload consciousness. And if you can upload consciousness and you can say, look, right now we're heading towards an apocalyptic event, which chances are we are. We're only a minute to midnight, according to the doomsday clock. We could make you live forever. We can upload you to a server in the cloud. It will not get destroyed, and you can experience reality in this artificial area. You won't know it.
Okay.
But you're not going to die. And the thing is how do we know we're not in that now? How do we know?
You can't prove a negative.
I know. But my point is, what Musk is saying is there's reason to believe we are. Because if you assume progressiveness in technological advancements, we could be there now. And if we're not, only one of two things are possible. If this is base level reality, we are heading into apocalypse. We will be destroyed. And you don't want that. So you sort of want to bank on the notion that we are in a simulation. You want that.
But if we're in a simulation and the apocalypse happens, is the apocalypse happening to our simulation and our simulated reality?
Why
or
would
is the
anybody
apocalypse
do that?
happening to the real reality?
Why would there be an apocalypse in a simulated reality? The whole point of a simulated the whole point of a simulated reality is that it's better than base reality.
No. But you're saying if we are in a simulation right now, you just said there's two options.
Yep.
Either we're in a simulation or we're in base reality and we're headed towards apocalypse.
Yes.
But there is science that shows us that we are headed towards.
That could be part of the game.
So you don't. Okay.
This is what I'm saying.
This is just so hard for me to understand how you get here, other than your history or your past studies in philosophy, because
I was that cool guy at the party. Not really.
No, I know. Is that in every other subject or every other topic that we talk about, you always default to the simplest explanation is the most likely. And this is not the simplest explanation by a long shot.
All right.
The simplest explanation is that we are just living in reality and we are not part of a simulation or a video game.
So maybe this will sway you. There are people in our society and the world that we find extremely intelligent, extremely influential, extremely tapped in to when it comes to physics, when it comes to science, and we trust these individuals. People like Stephen Hawking, like we trusted his intellect. A lot of the things when it came to physics and metaphysics were correct.
Mm-hmm.
Probably one of the most brilliant people in our lifetime. His final paper sort of supported this.
Okay.
That's, again, not to say it must be true. Stephen Hawking said it, so it must be true. That's not what I'm saying. But I do trust their, sort of leanings. Same thing with Neil deGrasse Tyson. This was his response to Elon Musk.
I find it hard to argue against that possibility.
Meaning,
you look at our computing power today, and you say, I have the power to program a world inside of a computer. Well, imagine in the future where you have even more power than that, and you can create characters that have, for example, free will, or their own perception of free will. So this is a world, and I program in the laws that govern that world. That world will have its own laws of physics and chemistry and biology. Now, you're a character in that world, and you think you have free will, and you say, I want to invent a computer. So you do. Hey, I want to create a world in my computer. And then that world creates a world in its computer. And then you have simulations all the way down. So now you lay out all these universes and throw a dart. Which of these universes are you most likely to hit? The original one that started it? Or the countless simulations, the daughter simulations that unfolded thereafter? You're going to hit one of the simulations. So statistically, based on that argument, which first appeared by a philosopher from Oxford named Nick Bostrom back in the 1990s, right when computers were becoming real enough to think this through. It's hard to argue against the possibility that all of us are not just the creation of some kid in a parent's basement programming up a world for their own entertainment. And then every time something weird happens in the world, some disruptive leader takes charge, and I wonder if that programmer just got bored and had to stir the pot. So they throw somebody in there just for their own entertainment. For me, that's some of the best evidence that we live in a simulation.
That to me sounds much better and much more articulate than Elon Musk.
I mean, he said, I find it hard to say that it's not a possibility.
Yeah, I'm not saying this is proof of anything.
No, he's just saying it's a possibility, which again, you can't prove a negative, so of course it's a possibility.
But what I'm saying is within our world, we are doing this. We are making simulations. We are making virtual reality. We are uploading and making worlds for us to, put ourselves in and play.
But we aren't making beings with free will. That's what he said.
Not
You're making
yet.
characters
Not
with free
yet.
will, or who think they have free will.
Again, going back to Musk, if you assume technological progress, which we do, there's no reason to believe we won't get there.
I guess. Well,
we could get there. And
Neil
if we get
deGrasse
there,
Tyson says that, but Bill Nye does not think it's real.
Oh, whatever. Fuck Bill Nye. There's more I want to get into. Let's take a break right here. We'll get back to it in a bit.
Okay.
So the thing that grabs me about this, we talk about, and the best evidence for this right now, we talk about the universe itself. We say, okay, the universe is full of these things we can't explain: black holes, antimatter, black matter. There things that, gray matter's in the brain. There are things that we just can't explain through science. We're still trying to investigate it. We really can't investigate black holes because then we'd be dead. We can only sort of snap a picture of one or an illustration of one. I don't know the real story behind it. I digress.
Well, there are people who study black holes.
Okay.
Just not by going in them.
About the universe is the one thing that we know for sure is that it's expanding. And we can't figure out why, right?
Or where it goes.
If it's infinite, how can it expand? An expansion implies at least 2 points to pull. Right? You can't expand something that's infinite.
And it can't expand into nowhere.
Right.
Yeah.
So when I think about that, I think, wow, the universe is so vast that there's probably an endpoint or a loop point or something. There's got to be, right? Physics doesn't explain infinity well. There's always an endpoint. And then I say, is there anything in our planet or in our lives that is like that? And yes. Think about something that's constantly growing. Think about something that's constantly growing and we have no spatial awareness. It's infinite. We're regarding it as infinite, and there's more and more stuff being put into it. And you say, oh, fuck, that's the internet. That's what the internet is. It's an ever expanding thing.
Well, now with the cloud, especially.
And it expands. And think about, that's exactly where I go with this.
It's not a tangible thing. It's not made of matter.
Until it is.
Or energy.
Until our consciousness is uploaded into the cloud and we program the rules of the game.
What is the cloud?
I don't know. What is the universe?
Now that you mentioned that, right? It's not like...
It's not tangible,
right,
but it's out there and it's expanding. These things go somewhere.
Right, but the universe is... I don't think you can separate matter or energy from the universe or the bounds of the universe like you can from
it's
the
part
internet.
Of the game.
Oh my God.
This is what I'm saying. This is exactly what Tyson said. And to me, this is the most captivating part. You program those rules into the game. And I say the game, I'm not talking about the video game, just the place where the consciousness and the world is built, that universe. You put in the laws of physics, you put in the biological laws, you put in all these things that operate the universe as we perceive it. And even those things we don't understand, most of them we just accept. We just accept as fact. We talk about someone explaining the laws of physics, and I don't know about you, but when someone explains it to me, I say, yeah, that sounds good. Like, I don't question it. I just say, no, that sounds like it makes sense because you are smart and I'm not. So it sounds good.
But you test them and you can see them in happening.
Okay, but I don't and you don't. We just accept it, right? And if we're part of the game, those rules can't fail.
No, when you're in high school and college in your physics classes, you do experiments that demonstrate the laws of physics.
I feel you. I'm not saying that I'm saying when it comes to how the universe operates. I'm not talking about gravity
on that scale.
Right.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying to you is if those rules are built into the game, they won't fail. They won't fail us. No matter what, there will always be proof of, yes, this is how the universe operates.
They don't fail because that's how the universe operates and it's true and real, and that it can't fail because it's how it works.
But what I'm saying to you is it possible that it can't fail because someone programmed it that way and it can't go otherwise? Right? If you're playing if you're playing Super Mario Brothers, you can't have Super Mario go anywhere other than up, down, left, right, because that's the rules of the game.
Right.
So if Super Mario was conscious, all he knows is up, down, left, right.
Okay, but from I guess trying to look at it from a different angle. If you're looking at it from a biological or medical angle in our world, why can't it be so people die when their heart stops and their body shuts down or their brain stops function, whatever, you can call time of death for different things, but you know what I mean? Why isn't it just that that's because that's how our biology works and your body can't survive without a heartbeat?
It certainly can.
Why is it a better explanation to you that that's because that's the way someone programmed it to work, rather than that's just how biology works.
Of course, but why does biology work that way?
Why do you need to ask why? Because it does, because that's just the rule.
Well,
because that's what allows life and death to happen.
Isn't that the point of science, is to find out why? Isn't that the point of science, is to have explanation, just not to say that's just how it works, right? Scientists still don't understand why we age. There's still no scientific explanation as to why we degrade over time. They can't explain it, just like they can't explain anesthesia. There's no scientific explanation why we pass out to anesthesia. I've read that.
Why you pass out to what do you mean?
There's scientists still don't understand why anesthesia makes you sleep.
Oh, so general anesthesia.
Yes,
okay.
Yeah. Like not an anesthetic, just in being under the mask and being
under general anesthesia. Right. I was going to say, if you're under like a local anesthetic, it's because it blocks your nerve.
They're saying they don't know why you pass out while inhaling an anesthesia.
Really?
Yeah.
That seems pretty basic. Like, you'd want to know why.
Explain it.
I'm not a doctor. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just assumed that, like, they kind of understood the science behind why they use certain medications to do certain things.
Yeah. Scientists still don't understand exactly how general anesthetics work. It's on ScienceDaily.com.
Well, that's a little concerning.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. We just accept it. We wake up. Scientists still don't understand why we need sleep, but we do. We just accept it.
It's so that your body can rest and recover.
But why do we need rest and recovery?
Because we're a biological organism that doesn't have infinite energy.
But that's part. I'm not saying I disagree with this. I'm not saying that I fully buy in we're in a simulation. I'm not saying that. I'm saying if we were, that's built into it.
I know, but I'm saying, to me, I feel like those two things, like, that doesn't jump out at me as being like, oh, okay, so that explains why the rules of the world are what they are, is because some programmer made it that way. To me, I'm like, the rules of the world and the way life works is just because that's the way life works. I don't feel like the simulation argument is any stronger.
I think a simulation argument is stronger than just saying, that's just the way it is.
Science.
But okay, so explain it. If science,
just because we can't explain it, hundreds of years ago there were certain things that we couldn't explain that we can now. We didn't understand aerodynamics and flight. We didn't have planes, but now we do. We know the mechanics of how to make something that can fly.
Yeah,
like, we didn't know how to do that at once upon a time, and our technology just advances because we learn more about science and we conduct different experiments and have new information available to us. Just because there's no current explanation I just can't get with the whole, well, then we must be in a simulation.
I'm not saying we must be.
No, but you're saying, like, it's either that or God. Like, you just, in the absence of an, I'm going back to what you said at the beginning. In the absence of an explanation, there's this, and it's funny because this reminds me about, some of the things that we talked about related to conspiracy theories, is that when people can't find an explanation or they don't like the explanation that's available to them, they go down this alternate path of following, or we were talking about, like, if you can't explain it, you make up a story that helps you explain it, that gives you an answer to help you understand why something is happening. And that seems to be sort of the birthplace of a lot of these conspiracy theories. And I don't see this being that much different. Like, you're saying, in an absence of explanation, science doesn't understand it, or science can't explain it, I'm going to assume it's either God or we're in a simulation.
No. What I'm saying to you is,
I'm not saying you personally.
No. I don't even think that's what the simulation argument is portraying. And again, you have to assume technological advancements.
I am.
Okay. And if you're assuming that sort of progress, which we are, and making video games indistinguishable from reality, it is not absurd to think that at some point in Musk's, ideal, 10,000 years into the future, we're going to have those sort of simulations or have that VR available to us. And it's also not absurd to think that we could hook ourselves in voluntarily forever, have the nutrients we need, being a self-sustaining machine.
I understand all of this.
So if that is possible and even probable, it's probable that we will have these virtual reality simulations available to us that are indistinguishable from reality. It is probable. If we get there, then, and once we're in it, you can say to yourself, I never want to leave this. And there may be options for you never to leave it. You can pay an exorbitant amount of money to live in Earth 2 in that virtual reality.
I know.
Forever.
I know all
and
of
then
this.
forget that you were ever out.
I know. But I guess what I'm saying is, even though I can see that happening based on the trajectory that we're on right now with technology, but I guess I just wonder, and maybe this is like our natural hubris as human beings, that I don't know why that automatically lends to the assumption that we've done this before we're a product of this simulation.
But what I'm saying
technology.
to you is, it is more than 50% chance that we are.
Why can't it just be that we are base reality and we are now reaching the point in our human evolution where we're developing this technology?
That is possible, but if we're in it, if you're in that reality, you can say, fuck, how do I know that this hasn't happened before?
I know that. I guess, and I'm just saying, I feel like it's more likely that it hasn't happened before.
Going back to the discovery by the physicist I was talking to. So Hong Qin.
I tried to read this article, by the way, right over my head.
Okay, so we developed an algorithm to predict the orbits of planets in the solar system, training it on data of Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Ceres.
Yeah, I didn't even know that was a planet.
And Jupiter. All right, so things that are available to us, he sort of replicated the orbit rate and how they...
So he created an algorithm based on the planet's orbits.
Right. The data is similar to what Kepler inherited from Tycho Brahe in 1601. Doesn't matter.
Okay.
From this data, a serving algorithm can correctly predict other planetary orbits in the solar system, including parabolic and hyperbolic escaping orbits. Basically,
that makes sense.
So that's the point. The algorithm found out the laws of physics just with these planetary orbits. That's it.
Right.
That's it. Everything else it found out, it discovered, it put into place and utilized.
What do you mean everything else? All it said was it predicted other planets' orbits, which follows logic.
But you need certain laws of motion and universal gravitation in order to make those predictions. You need to have those laws built in, and it wasn't. It just predicted it correctly.
Right, but I think
all of it.
An algorithm like that has assumptions built into it.
No, this is what I'm saying.
No, you're not listening, because the algorithm was based off of planetary orbits.
That's it.
I know, but those planetary orbits in and of themselves contain laws about how they function and why they orbit the way that they do. So that information is by default contained in the algorithm.
No,
and then
I don't
applies
think
it to other things to make predictions.
No, this is his quote. Usually in physics, you make observations, create a theory based on those observations, and then use that theory to predict new observations. So scientific method, basically.
Right.
What I'm doing is replacing this process with a type of black box that can produce accurate predictions without using traditional theory or law. So essentially, I bypass all the fundamental ingredients of physics. I go directly from data to data. There is no laws of physics in the middle.
So what is the algorithm? I don't understand.
It's just
an algorithm is basically an equation, right? It's like a very complex equation, right? So that in and of itself is instruction or direction. Like, I don't understand how an algorithm is a black box with no information inside of it.
I don't understand the intricacies of this. I'm saying this was huge in the world of physics. This was huge.
Okay, well, listeners who understand this better than we do, please explain it to us in layman's terms, because I don't understand how an algorithm doesn't contain instructive information. That's the point of an algorithm.
His point is that it accurately predicted all of our universal laws to the T.
I guess. No, I guess I must be oversimplifying it, because to me that makes sense. Like, if the planetary orbits are based on our universe's laws, then it would make sense that you could predict other things that happen in the universe based off of the planetary orbits.
So my point is, though, if he bypassed all that, which he said he did, if he bypassed all those ingredients that you need to make that more of a robust algorithm, and the computer simulation in this, just with the planetary orbit systems, filled in the blanks.
Right. Okay. I'm
with
starting
the
to
laws
understand.
of physics by itself,
Okay,
that
so like,
lends credence to a simulation.
so maybe he just, in what he got from the planetary orbits was a very, very simple, like very minute amount of information,
Yes.
like just the trajectory or something.
Yes.
He didn't take into account the speed or the size
Nothing.
or the anything. So he was like a one-dimensional or one variable.
And it just produced
The
everything
rest.
else.
Interesting. I
And-
still don't think I fully understand it, but I'm getting
And
there.
that lends support, doesn't prove anything, it just lends support of a simulation, because his remark is, okay, this computer accurately predicted all of what we regard as fundamental laws of physics, of motion, of gravitational pull, everything. Nailed it. Fucking nailed it to the T. What makes us think that we aren't in that now? We
I don't
aren't
know.
in something that just, there was an algorithm built, you just said we have laws of physics, we can prove these things. In this algorithm, without even putting in there, it produced it.
I guess I'm still hung up on the fact that the very beginning of the article said that he based it on specific planets' orbits. So there was something from reality
You're right.
to base this on. So it wasn't a completely blind, empty, like black box that had nothing to work with.
My point with this, though, is that if we have this ceiling, right, this ceiling that we can't break through, and we're saying that ceiling is everything we regard as the laws of physics, everything measurable, everything provable that we've had built into our biological systems from moment one till now in our human evolution, we could say that is our ceiling. We can't surpass it. So everything that we regard as true underneath it, we just accept. In other words, you're saying we have these laws, so it's ever expanding. But I'm saying that ceiling is the ceiling of the game. That is the ceiling of the simulation that someone inputted, and it is utterly impossible for us to escape that. We can't, just like Super Mario cannot understand anything else than down, up, left, right. We cannot understand anything else than what the rules of the game are in the laws of physics.
Right. And so I guess I'm going to throw back your argument about advancing in technologies and how far we've come, and so therefore look how much farther we will probably get with science and the things that we currently can't explain. What makes you think that we won't eventually be able to explain that? What makes you think that there's a ceiling?
That's part of the rules. That's part of the game.
Or the fact that we have these unexplainable things doesn't necessarily mean because it's impossible to, because there's a ceiling.
I'm saying
in the argument of the simulation, that's the argument, is that we can't explain these things because there's this ceiling. You just said it.
No. I'm saying the laws are the ceiling. The laws of physics are the ceiling.
And we can't explain any further than that because
we
that's
don't
how
need
it's programmed.
They're laws. We don't need every
Okay, so what
scientific
about
discovery is based on the laws of physics. If you make a scientific discovery that is void of laws of physics, you won't make that discovery. These are necessary parts of the discoveries. You can't, it will be bad science. It will be pseudoscience. If you are making discoveries about the universe and say, yeah, but this doesn't adhere to the laws of physics, they're going to say, no, that's not a fucking discovery.
I understand that. But going back to my analogy of flight and planes, there was a time where we thought it was impossible, that it went against the laws of physics for a plane of that size to be able to fly.
But then we figured out it adheres to the laws of physics.
So but what makes you think we won't find out other things that do adhere to the laws of physics
but
that further explain the things that we don't understand right now?
We totally can, and that's part of the game.
And I'm telling you, I just feel like that's the disconnect. I feel like if we get there and we get to a point where we can explain, infinitely more things than we can explain right now.
Just imagine, this is what what is lost on this entire episode is that my quote unquote specialty in philosophy was based on ethics. And
oh my God,
we
didn't even talk about that yet.
I wanted to get into. When it comes to the ethical ramifications is that you can have, imagine if you were able to escape and figured out, okay, we're in a simulation. One of two things you're going to go to: nothing matters, which is pretty depressing and saying it doesn't, or you could say nothing matters or nothing is real. I have limitless possibilities. And I think when you really think about the people that are so successful in this world, I'm not talking financially, I'm talking about as individuals, like, I don't know, The Rock or something, or Elon Musk to a degree. And I know they're all sort of rich as a byproduct of that, but you look at their work effort and their inability to just give up. maybe they've tapped into something and say, it doesn't matter. We have unlimited potential. All you people out there that aren't tapping into it, just you don't realize you can. And I'm not saying they've woken up to the theory that, oh, we're in a simulation, but maybe they're just more driven to say you can't fail in a simulation. You literally can't fail. You can die.
People do fail all the time.
But then they pick themselves back up, or maybe they just fucked up along the way, or maybe that's part of the game. It's part of the game is to it's not fun to play a game where you always succeed.
But
that's
what
not
about,
fun.
But that's what you're saying, is that because we're not in reality, you have limitless possibilities, but that's just not true.
Why? Why is it not true?
Well, what about people who tried to latch on to that and tried to be great and go above and beyond and reach all these unlimited possibilities, and they died?
Maybe they're part of the game. Maybe they are, according to this theory, the simulation, maybe they're just part of what not to do in the game. Maybe
so like Martin Luther King Jr.?
No, because he was extremely influential.
But he died.
I understand that.
As a result of pursuing his potential.
But I'm not saying there wasn't more potential to reach. I don't want to, this isn't a sociological conversation. It's more of, he did something that no one else has ever done. He's reached almost, and no pun intended, king status when it comes to how he sort of transformed
right, but my point is that his potential and his possibilities weren't limitless. They were limited by the fact that he died.
No. It just doesn't mean you're immortal.
But that's what I mean. Like,
of course
I
you
don't
can
know.
die. I'm saying that inner drive.
Okay.
That
you access the drive.
Yes, you access that it factor in you and go get it.
So what are the ethical implications of that?
No, that's just aside. Imagine being in the simulation, right? And this is where the experience machine happens. There are so many layers to this, and we're breezing right through it, and I feel bad. This is really bad philosophy. But imagine
that's what I'm
being
good at. I'm
in
good
a
at bad
simulation
philosophy.
and saying, okay, we're close to an apocalyptic world. I'm going to insert myself into the experience machine. I'm going to upload my consciousness or have my body being in a self-sustaining machine and experience a world where there is no nuclear war or whatever apocalyptic circumstances like there are now, right? So you insert yourself into like a matrix-like tomb, and you're in there, but it's just you, right? So the people around you that you're interacting with in the simulation aren't also uploaded to the same cloud.
They're not avatars.
Right, but you don't, they are avatars. Sorry, they're just...
They're AI.
Yes, but you don't realize it. You're born, you go through your childhood, you just go through it, right? And we get married. If I'm in this right now, I get married to you. Okay.
I'm not real.
According to this,
okay.
right? We have our child.
She's also not real.
Right. But you feel it, you love it, you experience love, you experience loss, you experience all these things that matter to you, things that make you who you are. All these experience up until your death, and then, okay, you're out of the game, and the game was only 20 minutes, but it felt like 80 years to you, and you step out of the game, and you have these two paths, these two rivers of recollection. Everything that happened before you got into the experience machine, and everything that was in the experience machine. And you think, fuck, everything I loved was a lie. Like, that is a huge ethical implication that you could be experiencing something that isn't real. Your love, your loss, your determination, your desires, everything was just a product of the game.
Okay, I don't understand how that's an ethical, like, so once you come to that realization, what is the ethical decision that you have to make?
Everything it's not a decision. Everything that you built up, all these experiences regarding the way you function, the way you treat other people, everything that you've done to build your moral compass didn't happen. So what is base ethics? What is base moral compass? Is that part of the game? Is that built into the game, the rules of the game? Or are ethics completely something outside of that when you're outside of the experience machine?
I don't think ethics is removed from it at all. If we're going to entertain this idea of you being in a simulation and everything is, you're the only thing, your consciousness that's in the simulation is the only thing that's real, you have consciousness.
But the consciousness has to follow the rules of the game.
Okay, but you still, so wouldn't it be ethical of you to make decisions that follow the ethical rules in the game?
Like polygamy. Outside the experience machine, in quote unquote base level reality. Polygamy is natural. It's what we all do. But in the game, you say, I want to be in a world where everything is monogamous, or at least I am. I want to be in a world where I am dedicated to just one person, and that one person is dedicated to me.
Okay.
And then when you leave and you're outside of that experience machine, that monogamy no longer exists. It's not a thing.
Okay.
It's not a function or a byproduct of real ethics, but you made it up in order to have that positive experience in the game.
Okay, then I guess my answer is that ethics are formed by the environment and the society that you live in. Like, there aren't any, well, I guess maybe I do this all the time. I confuse ethics and morals, and you always correct me.
Yeah.
But
morals necessarily have to have some sort of God figure.
But you just gave an example of, like, depending on what world you live in and what society and culture you live in, I don't know. There are things that are acceptable and not, but I guess, I'm trying to think of an example of something that would just always be unethical.
Like in the animal kingdom, murder isn't a thing. There is no murder, right? And if all humans right now were extinct, murder doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Right? So murder can only happen if humans are existing. That's it. It's the only way murder can exist.
But isn't it's always unethical to kill someone outside of something like self-defense or
of course, to humans,
accident?
Does that mean it's real? Is murder a thing? Or is that just part of our social contract?
Okay, so you think that there are ethics, basic ethical rules that you can't understand because you're in a simulation.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I don't know.
I don't know.
All right, we can wrap it up here.
And
we can do a part 2 later. This was all over the place. Look, if you think we're living I don't think we're living in a simulation. I just don't disregard it.
Okay.
I look at it as a possibility.
I don't disregard it as a possibility either, but I really, really don't think that's what's happening.
All right, well, if this is base level reality, cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. But if it's not, people making those pixels are really fucking good at it.
Yes,
and
they are.
They're so fine. Anyways, if you think we're living in a simulation and you want to help us get out of the matrix, please let us know. You can interact with us on the Facebook page, Instagram page, what have you. If you haven't already, subscribe to the show. Next week, we're going to have a pretty heavy and special episode. I don't want to bury the lead when it comes to it right now, but we hope you tune into that one. It's going to be pretty personal. So,
yeah. And we'll post a poll on Instagram to get your feedback on whether or not you think we're in a simulation. So stay tuned.
All right. See you.
Bye.